Picture this. It's December 2008. A man sits in a room with his two sons and just casually drops a bomb that is going to completely shatter the global financial world. I mean, in a single sentence, a decades-long illusion just unravels. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on history's greatest financial deception. We're going full high-stakes true crime here, breaking down the anatomy of a massive fraud that was literally hiding in plain sight.
Okay, let's dive into this because we really need to talk about the scale first. $65 billion. I want you to just sit with that number for a second. It's not a typo. That is the staggering scale of the theft we are talking about today. It's a sum so incredibly massive, it rivals the GDP of entire countries. So you're probably wondering, how on earth do you steal $65 billion without anyone noticing until the whole thing blows up?
Well, you do it by doing absolutely nothing. Seriously. The shocking truth of this entire investigation, and probably the most unbelievable fact you're going to hear today, is that despite taking in billions upon billions of dollars, 0 trades were actually made. None. Zilch. Not a single stock was bought or sold with that money for decades.
Which brings us right to the chilling, cold truth that Bernie Madoff delivered to his sons on that fateful day in December. He looked at them and said, "It's all one big lie." There was no sob story, no complex Wall Street excuses. Just a gritty, terrifying confession. And to understand how he got away with a lie this monumental for so long, we kind of have to rethink everything we know about how a criminal actually operates.
See, most people think a scam this big requires, a mastermind villain hiding in a dark basement, furiously hacking into mainframes. But the most dangerous predators, they don't hide in the shadows at all. They hide right in the light. Madoff built what we can really only call the ultimate trust me bro empire. He weaponized prestige, he wore tailored suits, he had this totally disarming smile, maintained a spotless record, and guys, he was literally the former chairman of the NASDAQ. He wasn't fighting the establishment, he was the establishment. And this right here is the brilliant architecture of his deception. Investigators actually dubbed this the financial mullet. Legitimate business in the front, massive Ponzi scheme in the back. Upstairs, up on the 19th floor, his team was doing real, completely normal, heavily regulated finance. It was the absolute perfect camouflage. But downstairs, down in a highly restricted room full of fiction, they were running a vault of completely fake numbers. So how did he actually get clients for this downstairs vault? The crazy thing is, he didn't. They came to him. Madoff ran his operation exactly like a financial fight club, and rule number 1 was, you do not ask questions. His strict exclusivity created this insane country club flex. It literally made naive investors beg to hand over their cash. If you even dared to ask about his methods, he just threatened to kick you out of the fund entirely. But what they were really buying into was the promise of this specific number, 10 to 12% returns, consistently, impossibly consistently. It was pitched as this magic portfolio that acted as an umbrella, rain or shine. The market crashes, Bernie gives you 12%. The market goes on a massive bull run, Bernie gives you 12%. To the outside world, it looked like a straight, risk-free escalator to immense wealth. Now, when people did bravely ask how he achieved these impossibly consistent returns, he'd cite his signature weapon, the split strike conversion. Doesn't that sound like a finishing move from Mortal Kombat? He claimed he was buying a basket of blue chip stocks and then buying and selling options on those stocks to build a protective collar around his investments. Basically saying he capped his massive gains to completely eliminate the risk of losing money. It sounded like brilliant high-level math, but actually, it was just mathematical nonsense, a total distraction spell. To actually execute the trades he was claiming to make, Madoff would have literally needed to buy more options than existed in the entire global market. So let's strip away all that split strike jargon, because underneath you uncover a super simple, absolutely ruthless Ponzi loop. Step 1, pocket the new investor cash. Step 2, when an older investor wants to withdraw their money, just use the new money to pay them. Step 3, print fake monthly statements to keep everybody else happy and quiet. That's the whole mechanism. That's it. And get this, to execute step 3, his team actually used an ancient IBM dinosaur computer. They were using outdated technology entirely on purpose. Why? To generate these boring, safe, highly professional-looking statements. The printouts looked so incredibly dull and standard that investors just eagerly swallowed the fiction. People love to trust boring paperwork. It just feels legitimate,
But behind the scenes, this invisible scaffolding was completely rotting away.
a brilliant financial analyst named Harry Markopolos literally spent years screaming at the SEC that Madoff's math was totally impossible. He showed them clear as day that no one could replicate the trades because the market volume simply wasn't there. But regulators, they just couldn't imagine that someone so connected, so prestigious, could be so fraudulent. It was a massive failure of imagination, and they literally handed Madoff a metaphorical gold star and just moved on.
Which brings up a really important question for us today. The SEC totally failed to protect Madoff's victims because they put blind trust in the wrong credentials. So, could a modern Trust Me Bro scammer target you next? You see, you don't need a billion-dollar portfolio to be a target anymore. Today, your personal data is the exact currency that scammers are after.
Right now, as we speak, thousands of data brokers are quietly collecting your home address, your phone number, your financial history, all without you ever knowing it. They map out your entire life, and then scammers just buy it to use for identity theft. Just like Madoff's victims, you might not even realize the damage is happening until it's way too late. But there is a brilliant tool called Incogni that fights back. It automatically steps in and forces these brokers to completely delete your profiles. Because think about it. If they can't find you, they can't harm you. You really need to empty your own digital magic boxes before the scammers can strike. Use code CLARITY for 60% off Incogni and lock down your data today. You have to protect yourself because, as we've seen, no one else is going to do it for you.
Okay, getting back to Madoff. What's really interesting here is that it wasn't a regulator that finally brought him down. It was the timeline of the global economic collapse that forcefully acted as the catalyst for his downfall. Honestly, he might have kept the scam going until he died of old age, but in 2007, the housing bubble bursts. By mid-2008, Lehman Brothers vanishes overnight. By late 2008, the entire global economy is just a giant dumpster fire rolling downhill. And suddenly, the music stops. Total panic sets in across the market. Madoff's clients are desperate for cash to cover all their other massive losses, so they just flood him with redemption requests. They want their money out immediately. But Madoff is completely trapped by his own math. He got hit with $7 billion in redemption requests, but when he looked in the bank, he only had a few $100 million in actual cash. The Ponzi loop is totally broken. The new money has completely dried up, and the old money is screaming to get out.
The grim reality of the situation absolutely crashes down on him. As he vividly put it himself, he realized he was holding the biggest bag of stinking shit in history. The billions were gone. The magic was gone. There was absolutely no way to spin it anymore. No fancy split-strike conversion jargon left to hide behind. The downstairs vault was empty.
So we walk into the final clinical hours of the scheme. On December 10th, 2008, he pulls his sons into that room and confesses. Decades of unshakable trust turned to absolute ash in exactly 24 hours. His sons, finally realizing the horrific scope of their father's crime, turn him into the authorities the very next day. In a flash, life savings completely evaporate. Entire charities are just wiped off the map.
In 2009, a judge handed down the brutal final reality, a 150-year prison sentence. It was a massive statement from the justice system, essentially telling a man who had stolen so much time, security, and life from others to just rot behind bars for the rest of his natural life. He ultimately died in federal prison in 2021.
So, what does this all mean? What should you and I actually take away from this explainer? It comes down to this core realization. In a world built entirely on credit and digital numbers blinking on a screen, gold is money, and literally everything else is just trust. The greatest danger to your financial security isn't necessarily the next stock market crash. It's unquestioned faith in someone just because they have a fancy title, a custom suit, and a supposedly spotless record.
Bernie Madoff's legacy is this permanent, haunting warning for all of us. He proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the absolute perfect camouflage for devastating fraud is extreme respectability. Because the second you stop asking questions, when you let prestige blind you to the actual math, trust can be a weapon. So listen, don't be the sad sack left holding the bag when the next big bubble inevitably snaps. If you found this high-stakes breakdown as wild and haunting as we did, hit that subscribe button to join us right here at Clarity Capital. We are all about empowering you to connect the dots that the regulators completely missed. Stay informed, stay cynical, and be sure to catch our next explainer, because we're diving into another financial con that honestly makes Bernie Madoff look like an absolute amateur. You definitely won't want to miss it. See you there.